My name is Tarmack, and here's my review of WWE 2K16 on PC. Just to get a few housekeeping details out of the way, options and performance are at the end of the video. If that's what you're after, there's a link in the description to jump to that position. This video footage was recorded on an i7-5820K with a GTX 970 video card, 16 gigs of RAM, on a dedicated SATA hard drive, and was played using a DualShock 4 controller. The PC release of WWE 2K16 hit Steam on March 10th for the usual $50 US. It had already released on console back in October 2015, and those console users had to buy their DLC and Season Pass stuff separately. The PC release comes with all of the DLC as part of the package. And I have to say, the amount of content included is actually quite impressive, all told. To start off with, there are over 120 wrestlers. Returning features that 2015 had removed include creating your own divas, female wrestlers for those not hip to the lingo, create your shows, arenas, championships, and entrances. Effectively, 2K got tired of all of the complaining about 2K15 having less content than 2K14, and so these features were put back in. New features include hair dye, being able to import face photos via a new tool, and including a number of materials in the costume creation so that you too can put your wrestler into a vinyl gorilla outfit. The divas can also have that gorilla outfit as well. There are modes upon modes upon modes to play with. 1v1, Tag Team, Royal Rumble, Special Rules matches, No Rules matches, online, offline, challenges to unlock new arenas or wrestlers, the Custom Wrestling Career Mode, tournaments, handicap matches. You won't be lacking in things to do. And all of the Create a Something features just have so many options that it's mind-boggling. They did not scrimp on details in this game. Unfortunately, it also suffers from extensive load times when dealing with a fair number of the customization options for characters and areas. It's almost as though it doesn't have the resources on your machine, even though it clearly does. If I had to pick my favorite piece, it's the return of the Showcase mode. Essentially, this mode takes you through the career of a particular wrestler with rebuilt matches in the game that actually occurred at real wrestling events. The subject this time around is Stone Cold Steve Austin, and it's pretty neat to go through a mode and play matches that I watched years ago. There's also a piece of the showcase called Hall of Fame, which is a series of actual matches as well, but doesn't revolve around just one main character's story. It's good fun. From a graphical standpoint, in an age of games like The Division and Tomb Raider, this game is going to impress nobody with its graphical prowess. The crowd isn't the cardboard-lined junk of years past, but it doesn't look good. The wrestler faces look like they were built by somebody in the character creator instead of individually modeled, which results in, well, crappy faces. Sure, they look better than previous iterations of the series, but that's not a very high bar. I think it's safe to give it a few points on the animation quality, though. The wrestlers interact with each other so much better, from more positions, and with more variety than they did before. This does give us some weird jitters in matches, though, with a bunch of characters like in a Royal Rumble match where you may see a character slide a foot to the side as the game engine realizes they can't occupy that particular area in space. The music is stock standard for a wrestling game and is great stuff, plenty of licensed music to use, but where WWE 2K16 really shines is in the commentary. 2K Games brought back Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler to handle the lion's share of the commentary in the game, as well as a few others. All in all, there are thousands of lines of dialogue, and frankly, if you weren't paying attention to the screen, just seeing it in the background or in your peripheral vision, the audio could well make you mistake it for a live event, and that is awesome. Occasionally you'll have some repeated lines, but it's not too often that it ruins the experience. So, what about online play? This is some footage of online play. It's recorded and performing at 60 frames per second, but the latency being experienced slows everything down to a crawl. And we're not in launch week or anything like that, any kind of extremely busy time, so there's no excuse for it to be this bad. There is one other bugbear that I've got. In the showcase matches, you will periodically have a cutscene QuickTime event. A bunch of action will be going on, and you need to press a button at just the right time. However, I found these sequences less than enjoyable because every time I got one, I had to stare at the button possibilities instead of watching the cool cutscene action. It's bad design in my view to take the player's attention away from on-screen visuals to focus on a metagame. Okay, options and performance. Does the game run well? Yep, for the most part. I had no difficulty maintaining a solid 60 frames per second during play. The only oddity is that all of the entrances and cinematics throttle the game back to 30 frames per second for some reason, which is a bit jarring to move back and forth between. I get that consoles are a thing, guys, but if the game can handle 60 frames per second and above, the cutscenes should be able to as well. However, I had a few notable problems. Serious problems is a better word for it. In my first few hours, I had 7 separate times where the game crashed to the desktop. A couple of them were reproducible when loading certain matches. The game is also very inconsistent in its load times. I've seen everything from 20 seconds to 2 minutes from the time that I hit play in Steam until I'm at the first interactive menu in the game. I'm going to give you a good solid people's eyebrow, 2K. Seriously, you're better than shoddy code like this. Essentially, the quality of control on the port is spotty. Options include the standards such as VSync, shadows, anti-aliasing, and texture quality. You can set how dense the audience is packed, which, given that they don't look particularly good in the first place, is a good way of distracting from the lackluster imagery. There is one thing in the graphics options that doesn't make any sense, though. In full screen, you can have 1920 by 1080 for resolution. If you turn on windowed mode, it capped out on my system at 1680 by 1050. I couldn't select a higher windowed resolution, and no borderless windowed resolution exists either. So that's really not great. Audio can be altered with 5 separate sliders, everything from the entrance music to commentary and cinematics. There's also a nice jukebox and playlist feature for the licensed tracks and entrance music for each wrestler as well. The game supports controllers out of the box, though the DualShock 4 still requires something like DS for Windows to run. The Steam controller works with it as well, and what seems almost uncommon these days, the keys on both keyboard and the controllers are fully remappable. And in addition, there's a ridiculously huge amount of options regarding what kinds of camera moves and visuals occur during matches, as well as the balancing of those matches. So many features and options that I don't even know what half of them do, to be perfectly honest. To summarize all of this is a little bit difficult. WWE 2K16 is a huge game filled to the brim with features, modes, options, and all kinds of awesome nonsense. But it's also prone to crashing. The better character animations result in more visual skids when a leg or arm ends up in a place that it shouldn't be. The loading times are atrocious in many cases, and the online play is not even worth engaging in because of how badly the server latency affects it. This is a game that I cannot in good conscience recommend, and yet I'm still having a ton of fun with it. I think that it's a wait-and-see kind of title. It needs a few patches to sort out the PC issues, which sucks because it's got so much stuff hidden throughout that all in all, stability notwithstanding, it's a very impressive production. If those issues get patched out, then WWE 2K16 is easily worth the price of admission at $50 US. And with a return to form adding back in the features removed from 2K15, wrestling fans and just plain fighting game fans will probably enjoy it a heck of a lot. My name is Tarmack. Thank you very much for checking out my review of WWE 2K16, out on Steam March 10th for $50 US. I'd love to see you subscribe to the channel and chatting away in the comments or over on my subreddit, reddit.com/r/Tarmack. Cheers, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.